The city was glowing outside my bedroom window, a sea of gold and white lights stretching across the skyline. From the 23rd floor of our apartment, the traffic below looked almost peaceful, headlights flowing like a quiet river through the night. Inside, everything was still. Too still. I had just set the dinner table. His favorite meal sat untouched, jollof rice warming under silver foil, grilled chicken brushed with spicy pepper sauce, and a small bowl of salad I had forced myself to prepare even though I knew he would barely look at it. A single candle flickered between two wine glasses. My phone buzzed against the marble kitchen counter. I smiled automatically. Then I read the message. Husband, working late. Don't wait up. That was it. No heart emoji. No apology. No explanation. Just 6 cold words. For a moment, I stood there staring at the screen, the hum of the refrigerator suddenly louder than it should have been. Working late. Again. I typed back slowly. Me, everything okay? 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then disappeared. A minute later. Husband, yeah. Big client meeting. Go to sleep. Big client meeting. At 9:47 p.m. I looked at the candle. At the plates. At the empty chair across from me. Something inside me shifted, not anger, not yet. Just a quiet ripple beneath the surface. The kind of feeling you get when you sense rain before the clouds gather. He had been working late 3 times this week already. Last Thursday. Saturday. And now tonight. I walked to the window and folded my arms, pressing my forehead lightly against the cool glass. Down below, couples laughed as they stepped out of black SUVs. Music drifted faintly from somewhere, Afrobeats, soft and distant. My chest tightened. Why didn't he call? Why did his voice feel different lately? Distracted. Guarded. And why, every time he texted instead of calling, did it feel like he was already somewhere else? I glanced back at the dining table. The food. The wine. The effort. Before I let my thoughts spiral completely, I paused for a second. If you're enjoying this story and want to see what happens next, don't forget to subscribe and share so you won't miss a single twist. My phone remained silent in my hand. Working late. This time, the words didn't feel like information. They felt like distance. And for the first time, I wondered, not if he was busy, but if he was lying. The message shouldn't have stayed with me the way it did. But it did. That night, I didn't touch the food. I sat at the dining table long after the candle burned low, replaying the past few weeks in my mind like a film I hadn't been paying attention to until now. Working late. The words had become routine. Casual. Almost rehearsed. Last Thursday, he had sent the same message while I was at the salon in Victoria Island. I remember smiling at my reflection, telling the stylist, my husband is such a hard worker. I had felt proud saying it. Saturday evening, we were supposed to attend a charity dinner together. I had already zipped up my navy blue gown when his call came. I'm stuck at the office, he said, his voice flat. Something urgent came up. On a Saturday? I asked lightly, trying not to sound suspicious. You know how business is, he replied. Don't start. Don't start. That was new. He used to explain things. He used to soften his tone. He used to say my name. Now, everything felt shortened. Measured. I began noticing smaller things too. He carried his phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. When I walked into a room, conversations would end. His screen would flip face down against the table. One night, I reached for his hand while we were watching television. He hesitated. Just for a second, but I felt it. The distance wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle. Like a slow crack spreading through glass. I remembered calling him 2 nights ago. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. When he finally called back, the sound around him wasn't office noise. No keyboards. No murmured voices. It sounded quiet. "Why didn't you answer?" I asked gently. "I told you." "I'm busy," he said sharply. "You worry too much." Maybe I did. But I also remembered the way he used to look at me, like I was his choice, not his obligation. Now his eyes avoided mine. Now his smiles felt practiced. Now working late felt less like dedication, and more like disappearance. I stood in our bedroom, staring at his side of the closet. His suits hung neatly, untouched. His cologne bottle slightly lower than usual. A pattern was forming. And patterns don't lie. But people do. And somewhere deep inside me, a quiet fear was beginning to take shape, a fear that whatever he was doing after working late, it wasn't work at all. If my husband's distance felt like a slow crack in glass, my best friend's silence felt like a door quietly closing. Amara and I had been inseparable since university. Late-night study sessions, shared taxis across Lagos Island, whispered dreams about love and success. She had stood beside me at my wedding, holding my bouquet when my hands trembled. She had hugged my husband and said, laughing, "If you ever hurt her, you'll answer to me." Now, she barely answered at all. It started small. "Brunch this Sunday?" I had texted her one afternoon while sitting in a cafe overlooking the Atlantic. Her reply came hours later. "Can't. Busy." Busy? Amara never missed Sunday brunch. It was our ritual, mimosas, gossip, laughter so loud the waiter would smile knowingly. The next week, I tried again. Movie night at mine? Another time. No emoji. No explanation. I told myself she was stressed. Work had been intense at her fashion consultancy. Lagos could swallow you whole if you let it. Traffic, deadlines, endless expectations. But something felt off. One evening, I decided to call her instead of texting. The line rang twice before she answered. "Hey," she said, her voice too bright. Too quick. "Amara, are you avoiding me?" I asked lightly, half joking. "What?" "Of course not. I've just been overwhelmed." "In 2 weeks?" I teased gently. She laughed, but it sounded forced. "You know how life is." In the background, I heard a sound. A door closing. A low male voice, indistinct. "Are you at home?" I asked. A pause. "Yes," she said. Then quickly, "I have to go. Client call." The line disconnected before I could respond. I stared at my phone, my reflection faintly visible on the dark screen. My chest felt tight, though I couldn't explain why. Later that night, I scrolled through social media. She had posted nothing in days. Unusual for her. No selfies. No motivational quotes. No outfit photos. Silence. And then I remembered something else. Last month, when my husband had mentioned Amara's name casually at dinner, I ran into her recently. She had never told me. Not a word. 2 people in my life. Both suddenly distant. Both suddenly busy. Maybe it was coincidence. Or maybe silence wasn't emptiness. Maybe it was concealment. And for the first time, a dangerous thought crossed my mind. What if their distance wasn't separate at all? The apartment felt heavier than usual that night. The air conditioner hummed softly, but it did nothing to calm the heat rising in my chest. His message, working late. Don't wait up. Still glowed on my screen like a quiet accusation. I told myself to stop overthinking. But intuition is a stubborn thing. I picked up my phone again, my thumb hovering over his contact. For a moment, I considered calling him. Hearing his voice. Listening for background noise. Instead, almost without thinking, I opened the location sharing app we had both enabled months ago for safety. He had insisted on it after a robbery scare in the city. Just in case, he had said, kissing my forehead. Just in case. The small blue circle blinked for a second. Then it loaded. I expected to see his office tower in Victoria Island, the tall glass building where he claimed he spent endless nights negotiating contracts and meeting investors. But the dot wasn't there. I blinked. Zoomed in. Zoomed out. No mistake. He wasn't at the office. He was across town. Near a church. Not just any church, the large white cathedral near Lekki Phase 1, the one with the arched windows and manicured lawns, the one known for grand weddings and polished ceremonies. I had attended a colleague's wedding there last year. The memory surfaced instantly, white roses, violin music, cameras flashing. Why would he be there? At 9:58 p.m. My pulse quickened. Maybe it was traffic. Maybe he had passed by. Maybe. The blue dot stayed still. Not moving. Not traveling. Parked. I felt my throat go dry. I tapped his name and pressed call. It rang once. Twice. Then it went to voicemail. I tried again. This time it didn't even ring. My chest tightened as 1,000 small memories collided in my mind. Amara's rushed goodbye, his guarded tone, the late nights, the flipped phone screens. No. No, this was ridiculous. People don't lie like that. People don't. My phone vibrated. A new message from him. Still in meeting. Talk later. I stared at the glowing blue dot beside the church. Still in meeting. Yes. But not the kind he wanted me to imagine. My heart began to pound so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I didn't know what I would find. But I suddenly knew one thing with terrifying clarity. I had to see it with my own eyes. I don't remember grabbing my car keys. I only remember the sound of my heels against the marble floor and the elevator descending too slowly from the 23rd floor. My reflection in the mirrored walls looked unfamiliar, pale, tense, eyes wide with something between fear and determination. Outside, Lagos was alive as always. Streetlights shimmered against the humid night air. Hawkers stood at intersections, calling out softly to passing cars. Music drifted from a nearby rooftop lounge. But inside my car, there was only silence. My hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel as I pulled onto the road. The navigation app glowed on the dashboard, guiding me toward the cathedral in Lekki. The same blue dot hadn't moved. Still there. Still parked. Traffic felt endless. Every red light was an insult. My heart beat in rhythm with the ticking indicator signal. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe he was attending someone's event. Maybe it was business-related. Maybe. As I turned onto the wide, palm-lined road leading to the church, I saw it immediately. The building was lit. Not dimly. Not casually. Bright white lights illuminated the tall arched windows. The courtyard was decorated with strings of warm fairy lights wrapped around the trees. Several luxury cars lined the entrance, black SUVs, polished sedans. My breath caught. There was music, soft at first. Then clearer as I stepped out of the car. A violin. A wedding hymn. I stood frozen for a moment, staring at the grand wooden doors ahead. They were slightly open, just enough for golden light to spill onto the steps. Laughter echoed faintly from inside. A woman in a shimmering gown hurried past me, adjusting her clutch, not even noticing my presence. Another guest smiled politely as he walked in, assuming I was part of the celebration. The scent of white roses drifted through the night air. My legs felt weak, but they moved anyway. Step by step, I climbed the stairs. The music grew louder. Clearer. Intentional. My pulse pounded in my ears as I reached the doors. Through the narrow opening, I saw rows of seated guests. Flowers lined the aisle. Cameras were positioned near the altar. This wasn't a rehearsal. This wasn't a meeting. This was a wedding. My fingers pressed against the heavy wooden door, pushing it open just enough for me to step inside. And the moment I crossed that threshold, I knew. Whatever I was about to see would change everything. The doors closed softly behind me, but the sound felt louder than thunder in my ears. For a moment, no one noticed me. All eyes were forward. So were mine. And then I saw him. Standing at the altar. In a tailored black suit I had helped him choose last month. My husband. His posture was confident, composed, the same stance he used at corporate galas and award nights. His hair was perfectly styled. His jaw clean, sharp. He looked like a groom. Because he was. Beside him stood a woman in a white gown, lace sleeves shimmering under the chandelier lights. A long veil cascaded down her back. Her hands were folded delicately around a bouquet of white roses. I didn't need to see her face to know. But I did anyway. She turned slightly. And the world stopped. Amara. My best friend. Her makeup was soft, bridal. Her lips curved into a nervous smile. The same lips that once promised me loyalty. The same hands that held mine on my wedding day. A wave of heat rushed through my body. My knees nearly gave way, but I forced myself to stand still. The priest's voice echoed gently through the cathedral. Marriage is a sacred covenant, he began, his tone warm and ceremonial. Guests nodded. Some smiled. A woman in the front row dabbed her eyes with a tissue. This was real. This was planned. This was celebrated. My chest felt like it was being crushed from the inside. The priest turned toward him. Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? To love and cherish her, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live? Silence filled the air. I stared at his profile, searching for hesitation. For doubt. For guilt. He didn't look toward the doors. He didn't look for me. He looked at her. And he smiled. I do. 2 simple words. Soft. Clear. Final. A collective sigh of joy rippled through the church. Applause began to rise. Someone whispered, beautiful couple. Beautiful. My ears rang. My vision blurred for a second as tears threatened to fall, not gentle tears, but burning ones. Amara's eyes flickered past him then. And that's when she saw me. Her smile froze. The color drained from her face. My husband followed her gaze. And when his eyes met mine, the confidence shattered. Shock. Fear. Exposure. The music faltered as whispers spread through the pews. The ceremony had just ended. But the real moment was only beginning. The soft murmur of the crowd suddenly erupted into sharp gasps. I stepped forward, my heels clicking against the polished marble aisle, echoing like a warning through the cathedral. Guests turned in unison, their smiles freezing into expressions of confusion, disbelief, even fear. The violin music stuttered and stopped, replaced by the heavy silence of anticipation. He froze. My husband. Every muscle in his body stiffened, the smile he had worn like armor slipping away. His eyes widened, darting toward me, searching for an explanation he couldn't give. The suit I had once admired now felt like a uniform of betrayal, and I could see the weight of the moment crushing him. Amara's hands clutched the bouquet tighter. Her lips, painted soft pink, pressed into a thin line. I couldn't tell if it was guilt or defiance, maybe both. She was used to controlling moments, orchestrating attention, and yet now, her carefully curated world teetered on the edge of collapse. He began, voice shaking. Then he faltered. What are you? I raised my chin, my gaze sweeping over the shocked faces of the guests. What am I doing here? I echoed, my voice calm but cutting through the silence like a blade. I came to see why my husband keeps telling me he's working late. Whispers traveled faster than I could blink. Heads turned, some guests exchanging uneasy glances, others frozen in disbelief. The priest looked bewildered, papers clutched loosely in his hand. Amara finally found her voice, sharper now, defensive. Sidra. Don't, I interrupted, my words deliberate, steady. Don't pretend. I've watched. I've noticed. And now, everyone here can see exactly who you both are. My heart pounded, but my voice didn't waver. This was no longer about heartbreak. It was about presence. About truth. About reclaiming the power that had been quietly slipping through my fingers over the past few weeks. My husband swallowed, looking for an ally, a way out. There was none. The room was mine, even if only for this moment. I let the silence stretch, forcing them to feel the judgment of every witness. Some guests began shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Others murmured questions to one another. Every pair of eyes landed on the triangle of betrayal before them, the husband, the best friend, and me, the one they had underestimated. And in that quiet, heavy pause, I realized something crucial: humiliation was temporary. Strength, once claimed, could last forever. Step by step, I prepared to finish what I had started. The power was returning to me. And nothing they could say would take it away. I took a slow, deliberate breath, letting the tension in the room settle around me. My chest still throbbed, but I refused to let panic or tears control the moment. The guests had gone silent, their whispers fading into an expectant hush. I felt every eye on me, judgment, curiosity, shock, and I let it sharpen my focus. My husband, I began, my voice steady, almost calm. I've noticed the pattern. The late nights. The sudden disappearances. The secret calls. And yes, I've noticed your friend's little absences too. Amara's hands dropped to her sides. Her lips parted, but no words came out. My husband's face paled. He opened his mouth, as if to deny it, but I held up my hand. Don't bother explaining. I already know, I said. My gaze swept over them, unwavering, every word landing like a hammer. You didn't think I could see through the lies? That I wouldn't notice? That I would stay silent while you planned this betrayal behind my back? I paused, letting my words hang in the warm, flower-scented air of the cathedral. A few guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some whispered quietly to their neighbors. The gravity of the moment was sinking in for everyone, including them. I want everyone here to understand something, I continued, voice calm but cutting. Betrayal is not something that disappears simply because you smile and go through a ceremony. Actions have consequences. My husband swallowed audibly. Amara's eyes flickered to the floor, guilt threatening to break her composure. I have already consulted with my lawyers, I said, letting the words land deliberately. Everything from assets, property, to any legal agreements will be accounted for. I will not be made a fool of. And neither will anyone else here. I stepped closer to them, slow and deliberate, and my heels clicked sharply against the polished marble floor. You've tried to humiliate me. To take my trust for granted. But shame is something you feel when it is deserved. And tonight, the shame belongs to you. The priest cleared his throat, uncertain whether to intervene, but I ignored him. The guests sat frozen, captivated. The air was thick, almost tangible. I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and allowed the silence to press upon them. For the first time, I realized that the fear and pain I had felt in the last few weeks were transforming into something stronger: clarity, control, and power. The church no longer felt like a place of betrayal. It was my stage. And in that moment, I knew the next step, walking away, would be the ultimate statement. The ceremony was over, but my story, and my victory, was only beginning. I stood in the center aisle of the cathedral for one long, quiet moment, letting the weight of everything, betrayal, shock, humiliation, settle fully on the polished marble floor. The sunlight, now softened by the tinted glass, cast golden streaks across the pews, touching the petals of white roses like the world was still untouched by the storm I had just survived. Slowly, I reached for my left hand and slid my wedding ring off my finger. It felt heavier than usual, cold and metallic, and yet somehow liberating. I held it in my palm, watching the light glint off its surface. For years, it had symbolized love, trust, commitment. Tonight, it symbolized betrayal, and now, it symbolized choice. I tucked it into the small pocket of my purse, letting it rest there with the memory of everything I had endured. A deep, steady breath filled my lungs. I felt the tension in my shoulders ease ever so slightly. I was no longer the same person who had received that first text just days ago. That person had been naive, trusting, vulnerable. This woman, walking now, was sharp, aware, and unstoppable. The cathedral doors loomed ahead, polished oak with intricate carvings. I took measured steps toward them, each click of my heels echoing through the hushed space, a steady drumbeat of resolve. The guests were frozen in place, eyes wide, whispers dying down as they realized the finality of what I was about to do. The cool night air hit me the moment I stepped outside. Lagos sprawled before me, a city of endless lights, traffic humming in the distance, the soft rustle of palm trees swaying in the breeze. The scent of jasmine and urban night mingled in my nostrils. For a second, I closed my eyes, letting it all wash over me, the heartbreak, the rage, the sting of deception. Then I opened them. And I walked. Step by step, away from the altar, away from the lies, away from the people who had betrayed me. Each movement was deliberate, unhurried, a statement in itself. Behind me, the heavy doors of the church swung shut with a quiet finality, sealing the past inside. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. My dignity, my self-respect, my power, they were mine to carry forward. The city lights stretched before me like a path, full of possibility, full of life waiting to be reclaimed. Tonight, I had lost nothing that mattered. I had gained everything. And as I disappeared into the night, the world seemed to whisper back, "She is free, she is strong, she will rise."